Good afternoon, Budapest. What a pleasure it is to be with you. I think it's really exciting to be with such an important group of people in a room like this. And I've been listening to many speeches this morning, and I've been overwhelmed with the ideas and thoughts and the actions we can go back and take. And I don't know about you, but it's been incredible, hasn't it? You know, in the UK, we have Glastonbury. And in Hungary, you have HR Fest. So I think it's amazing what you've actually created here. Yeah, I've been passionate around leadership all my life, right from a young boy. And what's really fascinating about that is about how that's changed over the years. And I was thinking this morning, looking at when I was registering, and thinking about the amount of people at the HR Fest. And I was wondering, I wonder how many years experience do we have here today in this room in terms of leadership? Just have a look around now at the audience and have a look around and see who's around. And if you were to add up all the years experience you have in the room, I wonder how many years that would be. And when you think about that, I'm sure it's going to be probably in the hundreds looking around. And I would imagine, you know, that intellectual capital we have is immense. And I wonder how many organizations use that intellectual capital. And I said before, I've been fascinated about leadership, and I think it's an interesting topic in today's world and with the pace of change. And I've been lucky, really, over the last 25 years to work with over 75,000 of the best leaders in the world. And I was fortunate a while ago to be able to stop and reflect a little bit and think about what is it that makes a great leader in today's world. So I'd like to share what those findings were and have a look at what is it they're doing, which is fundamentally different than many leaders in organizations today. So the three questions I like to answer and propose to explore today is, number one is, well, why change? What's happening in the world right now? How have we been educated? And what's causing us to struggle with leadership at the moment? What are the drivers for change? You know, why is it that organizations are obsessed with a command and control structure? Why is it that we have annual appraisals when we know they just don't work? Why is it we stick people in 9 boxes? Why is it that we don't trust people to get on and do the jobs? Why is it we put so many processes and procedures in place that it's killing talent in organizations? And why isn't it that we have employee experience at the heart of everything we do? What is actually causing that? The second question I'd like to answer for you is, what does great leadership look like in today's world? So over the 25 years I'm working with many organizations, I've had a chance to be able to decode leadership and have a look at what makes successful leaders in the context we're in now. And when you think about leadership, the only thing we are in control of is our behavior. The only thing we're in control of is our behavior. The rest of it is really about other people making choices, isn't it? It's about whether they want to follow us or not. So what are the choices that successful leaders are making, and what is it they're doing to drive extraordinary results in today's world? And the final question is, so I know why I need to change. I know what great looks like, but how do I develop as a leader? What is it that we need to do in HR to develop our leaders to be really successful in a world that's different to what we were educated for? So they're the three questions I'd like to explore and spend some time answering for you. I love putting that slide up. That's the client base we're working with at the moment, and it's great to see so many diverse and different organizations. And you know, every time I work with an organization, I learn something. And I think that's fantastic. I think, you know, leadership is a journey, and we're constantly learning about new ideas and thoughts. And the client base we have is global, and it's really fascinating that if you look at global leaders, there is a trend, there is a pattern, there are ideas and thoughts we can pull together to actually make a big difference. And the difference is, I've noticed that great leaders are using what I call 10 disciplines, 10 things that they're choosing to do and focus on to drive extraordinary results. And in many cases, astonishing results. Why is it a young guy in the UK who's 25 has a website business, an online business, and within 5 years can turn it from nothing to £150 million worth of turnover and create an amazing brand without any shops selling t-shirts? What is it they're doing to be successful? And I'm sure you've seen many organizations that are failing, some of the big players. What is it they're doing that's stopping them from being successful? So I'd like to share some ideas and thoughts around what is it that we need to do to be leaders in today's world, but also what is it that we need to do from the world of HR to develop our leaders to be really, really successful. I'm based in Chester, and I found out this morning that apparently Budapest, or I think Budapest, was an old Roman city. Am I true? Is that right? I believe. Well, I'm from Chester in the UK, which is a Roman city, so I feel a connection with you guys, which is great. And tomorrow, I'm going to explore the local area and find out what it's all about. So I'm looking forward to that. So it's always sunny in Chester in England, as you can tell. It's a beautiful countryside. I grew up around that area, and I used to listen to my dad and my uncle talk. And my dad used to race cars, and my uncle used to race bikes. And what was really fascinating about that was that as a young boy, oh, and by the way, my grandmother had a candy shop, a sweet shop, so it was a perfect upbringing. I used to listen to my mum and dad talk and listen to my dad and my uncle talk around racing, particularly around this time of the year. And they talk about whether they won or lost, and they'd do a review, and I would listen to them. And over a period of time, I noticed a trend that materialized. And the trend was this, is that every time they lost a race was because they were going too fast. Every time they lost a race was because they were going too fast. Now, how ironic is that when you think about it? Surely racing is about going fast, isn't it? But you also, when you're racing, need to know when to slow down, don't you? And I think in business today, is it fair to say that we have the accelerator or the throttle full on? So the next 15 minutes or so is a chance for you to speed up by slowing down. So I learned from my uncle and my dad that in business, it's really important to know when to stop, when to think, when to reflect, but when to go fast. So for the next 50 minutes, I'd like you to be really selfish and really think about you as a leader and think about what is it that you actually do? What is it you really do to be successful as a leader? So moving forward, why change? What's interesting about this, would you say that our world is the same now than it was a few years ago? Or is it completely different? What do you reckon? Same or different? I look at it, lots of difference in the room here. Is it fair to say that the pace of change is getting quicker, or is it getting slower? Quicker, isn't it? Is it getting quicker a little bit or a lot? A lot of people call it exponential, would you say? The pace of change is so quick now that it's difficult to keep up with. And what that's causing, of course, in our world is what we all know is what we call a disruptive, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world that we live in. A world where diversity and digitization is playing a big part. Now, what's really interesting about that is I believe that the pace of change is so fast now, we can't learn faster than it. That's what's causing the challenges that we have in organizations. It's creating this what we call fogginess. Now, that requires us to think about leadership in a different way. It's no good to have the answers anymore. Yeah, quite often in leadership, isn't it, that we have a situation where I'm not even sure what the problem is, never mind what the solution is. So I'm having to lead without knowing the answers. And if you think about it, how many people do you know in your organizations that haven't changed and they're managing and leading in a way that's the same as they've always done all their lives? So what I'd like to do is share a little video with you, and then we'll decode the video and have a look at what difference is between the 1950s and now. Okay, so I can get this to work.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop.
So it's a Formula 1 pit stop.
Refuel and change tires. Moore himself changes the tire.
Do you know any leaders that use hammers like the guy on the right-hand side there? You know people like that?
It's the 10th time.
Like the cotton overalls, little hats and cravats.
Anxious to get away. That's why.
How many times can they do it compared to them? A few more times, eh? You might notice some subtle differences between the three videos. Here's the boss guy coming in with a different set of overalls on, different colour. He's just giving the driver a cup of tea. If he was British, it would be a cup of tea. Or a drink. And the guy doesn't trust him, he's cleaning the windscreen again. So the boss is out of the way now. Here comes the final wheel. So they've done 2 wheels, okay? Down the bottom left, they've done several wheels, haven't they, over that period of time.
The tires are changed at last. A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stops.
So 67 seconds compared with the world record at the moment in Formula One is 1.9 seconds. So when you look at those videos, you might have noticed there's obviously a lot of difference. Yeah, the rules have changed, haven't they? Yeah, they don't refuel anymore. I love the fact in the 1950s, the guy with the fuel, he's leaning across a hot exhaust and he's putting the petrol into the car. Now, here's the point that I shared that video. If you think about the guys there with the cotton overalls, hats and cravats, and a cup of tea, what would it look like in, I think it's the US Grand Prix next for Formula One, and you're in Lewis Hamilton's team, and you're stood in the pit lane ready for him to come in for his pit stop, and you're stood there with your cotton overalls, your hat, your cravat, and your cup of tea. What would people say to you? They'd probably say you're looking a bit stupid. You know, what on earth are you doing? But how many people do you know in organizations are like that? Still using the mindsets, the skills and tools from a world that just doesn't exist anymore. So I think it's important in our profession that we start to challenge that. And particularly in HR, we have an ethical and moral reason to go out there and start challenging the way people are leading organizations. But what does great leadership actually look like? Let me give you a second to take that in. We can go now, because that's it. That's the answer, by the way. So we can shoot off now. Wouldn't it be great if we were clear about a new leadership manifesto? I'd like to invite you to join me in a new leadership manifesto and start to think about what is it that great leaders do. So when I started decoding leadership and starting to look at what is it that great leaders actually do, I started to see some trends. So I believe there are 10 disciplines, and let me quickly go through those and share those with you, and then we can go into a little bit more detail a bit later on, certainly after this presentation. I believe a great leader in today's world has the ability to create a high-performance environment where success is inevitable. They can create a high-performance environment. They can understand how purpose, goals, and culture and strategy all fit together, and they can create a system that drives the right behavior and the right activity in the organization to get the right results. And they look at it in a holistic way. The challenge we have is in the old world, you became successful because you were a subject matter expert. You became a subject matter expert, and now you're at the top of an organization and you can't work holistically. So you don't look at the organization as a system. Now, what that's doing, of course, is driving the wrong behavior. So how many, for example, have a value around collaboration and team working, yet you reward people individually and you set individual objectives? So how are they going to behave individually? So I think the skill of a leader in today's world is to look at the system of the organization and be able to devise a high-performance environment which links strategy and culture together and can drive the right behavior and the right activity to get the results you want. The second aspect of that, of course, is how you awaken possibility in people to deliver extraordinary results. So how many of your leaders, for example, would have a KPI around confidence, around trust, around care, around ensuring that people feel safe? You know, at the end of the day, we are successful down to the people in our organizations. If the employee experience is not at the heart of the organization, then you're missing a big trick. It's about how we get the best out of our people. We need leaders who can operate with boldness, simplicity, and speed. Leaders who are comfortable to be vulnerable and to admit they don't know the answers. We need leaders who can keep things simple, not complicated strategies, one-page plans. And we need people who can operate with speed and pace. Not that excuse that we call efficiency. You can be really efficient, can't you, doing the wrong stuff? It's about being efficient and effective. That's when we operate at pace. And many organizations confuse pace and speed with being busy. So we need leaders who can do that and work at that level. We need leaders who can inspire action. Yeah, if you're a great musician, you're a great musician because you can give meaning to the music to the audience. You're a great leader because you can give meaning to the strategy to your staff. We need people who can inspire action, can tell stories, and get people behind what we're trying to do. We need leaders who can build high-performance teams really, really quickly. Global teams. You know, in a world of agile working, we need to be able to see opportunities and grab them. So our ability to put teams together really quickly is really important. If we don't have a process to do that, then we're missing a trick as well. We need leaders who can actually create a culture where innovation is unleashed. where everyone in the organization is trying to improve what they do. In sport, they talk about marginal gains. I think we need to in business as well. We need to look at everything we do and innovate in everything we do, not just new products and services, but our business models, the way we finance our business, the way we look after our staff, the customer journey, our brand. They are all areas where we can innovate. We need leaders who can manage ambiguity and navigate through uncertainty and are comfortable with not knowing the answers. We need leaders who can actually anticipate and manage risk. And we need leaders who can educate. The best leaders I know are the leaders who can teach, can coach and mentor and get the best out of their staff. And we need leaders who can deliver at pace. So I'd like to invite you on that journey and think about what is it that you do. Could you articulate your leadership philosophy? Could you articulate to your business what is it you do as a leader? Because the way we need to develop a leader starts with you. And I think the way we develop it is being really clear about what your personal leadership brand is. Can you talk about who you are as a person? What's important to you, your values, your philosophy? Have you got your own manifesto that you're living? My 10 disciplines are a framework that I use to reference my actions and review and focus on. Have I got a toolkit that's going to help me to be able to craft solutions? Because in today's world, we can't rely just on experience. We have to have the ability to be able to look at a situation and use a route map and a set of tools to get to where we want to get to. If you go back to the 1950s, there are many leaders who the only tool in their toolbox, of course, is one big hammer. That's what they use all the time. It's called coercive power. But that just doesn't work in the world that we live in now. So I'd like to leave you with a few thoughts, really, to finish on with, some final thoughts. And I know leadership is a massive topic, and we've looked at some concepts. But if we can get clarity in our organizations about what we want leaders to do, whether it's 10 things, 5 things, 4 things, or 3 things, and we then build a toolkit that enables them to do that successfully, then we've got a competitive advantage. Because I think the heart of success today is down to how good our leaders are in an organization. So if music is not just about playing the right notes in the right order, if music is about meaning, then art is not just about creating something or drawing something. Art is about the ability of seeing. So I have a big belief that leadership is not just about action. Leadership is really about being. So I'd like to invite you on a journey with me and start to have a look at how is it you're leading in today's world. Now, surely that's a really good idea worth sharing. Thank you very much. Thank you.